Hey, what's up guys? So we're going to do another episode of what the meta currently looks like as of right now, and one of these is kind of an OCG deck because we don't have it yet, but a lot of players are playing it on Dueling Network that are pretty decently rated. So as the meta looks like right now, pretty much Mac Rabbit, this is absolutely flooded everywhere. At least like 50% of the games that I'm trying to cast for you guys, or just watching other people duel and stuff, there's one player playing Dino Rabbits. It's a pretty good deck. It battles the meta pretty well, I would say. Yeah, this deck is absolutely, like, exploding with players right now. Like, the most played deck, I would say right now, hands down, is this deck. So you gotta side deck those bottomlesses, gotta side deck those maxis. But the thing with Macrocosmos, remember, once Macro's out, you can't really activate your maxis or your fact failures because they have to go to the graveyard. So that's just another thing. Like, maybe you want to side deck, I don't know, Blackhorn of Heaven. Or Spirit Reaper. Spirit Reaper plus, let me give you guys another tip. Messenger piece now that we're talking about. So yeah, this card is pretty good against Dino Rabbits as well. Do not do level M Area B. Someone was like, level M Area B is like the same. No, because Exceed monsters do not go to defense mode because they have a rank, not level. So keep that in mind. Messenger piece, pretty good. You can stall against that deck pretty well. Also, Spirit Reaper is a fantastic card, but they can just make either Blackhorn or they can make Photon, Photon Papillary Operative, the butterfly card. That's also like a really quick out to Spirit Reaper, but that deck is popular, so I would say Bottomless is probably your best friend. Like, the card's just really good against them in general. Also gets rid of like Guaiba when it tries to like run over your stuff. But yeah, this deck, be expected to play this deck by far the most because it's already reprinted and it's been topping like crazy. So be ready for that. Next up, Six Samurais. It's only really when they open up with Gateway that I actually like care. Like if I'm playing against them, like as long as they don't open up Gateway or too many Six Samurai Uniteds, I'm fine with playing this deck. Or against it essentially, I should say. I don't really like the playstyle of Six Samurais. It's kind of like an all-in, and then you can't top deck. That's really what it comes down to. But yeah, the deck is still pretty decent. If you open a Gateway, like the deck automatically wins, I would say, like most of the time. This card is just too good. It really needs to go. But that said, it's a popular deck. Everything's cheap, so it's a pretty decent deck too. Now, this deck is not very cheap, but it is a very good deck. The Mermails, because Abyss Megalo, he gets around a whole bunch of stuff. He can't be Solemn Judgmented. You can't Thunder King him because his effect starts a chain in the hand. You can Mind Crush him. That's a good card to side against this deck sometimes, but I don't know. Sometimes it's iffy because discarding is the cost, so they still get technically pop. Remember that the popping happens after he's summoned. That's just an important way that how it works, because he gets summoned and then the cards get to pop. Your back row, so you can still bottomless and they don't get a pop before he comes out. I've seen players try to say that they could, but anyways, next up, Grapha, or Dark World, I say. This deck is still popular. Why? Because it has a really good matchup against this. But if this deck opens up with Macrocosmos, Dark World pretty much loses. Next up, Agents. Agents are still a really strong deck. I mean, the deck is still topping, and it's a relatively inexpensive deck, and it's pretty good. Next up, Windups. This is kind of like the utility, like Exceed deck. It's still a pretty strong deck, I would say. The deck is still topping a lot, and it's a pretty easy deck to make, I would say now, because everything is pretty inexpensive. I'd say Shark is the only card that's moderately expensive, I would say, in the deck. Rats are relatively cheap. You can get most of the stuff in the extra deck for relatively cheap. Even like Zen Mighty's like just a few bucks. And then lastly, Fire King. This one is an OCG card at the moment because we don't have it printed out yet. But yeah, the Fire Kings, there's a lot of players playing it on Dueling Network. Because this card it's pretty good, but honestly, it has the same problem that Dark Worlds will have, and like Macro Rabbit will triumph over this deck, I would say, because this card only gets its effect when it has to be special summoned from the graveyard. So if it never hits the graveyard, it can't special summon itself. But the thing with the Fire King is there is this card that is pretty good. Let me just go over this card just so you guys can get a better understanding of it, because this deck will be coming up soon. So if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon one Fire Beast Warrior. It's Beast or Beast Warrior or Winged Beast type from your deck. You can't special summon one of each. I remember one player told me, it's like, no, you can summon one of each. And I'm like, no, it doesn't say one of each, it just says one. So you choose which one. But its effects are negated and gets destroyed during the end phase, and you can only activate one of them per turn. This card's amazing. It's cool. Let me just get a free 2700 beer out, and then I can end my turn. Okay. I end my turn. Okay, it dies. Okay, standby phase, it blows up your field. Well, your monster lineup, essentially. But the thing is, if they already have macro out, like, good luck, because you're just going to have to try to run into log and hope everything goes all according to your plan. But yeah, this deck is not out yet, but it will be played. I guarantee it, because it's a structure deck. Structure decks usually see a lot more play because a lot of players will have access to it. But I would say these are the most popular decks on Dueling Network, as well as, you know, in the meta right now. Definitely Mermails, and I'd say these are probably like the top 3. These decks are seeing so much play right now, as far as, you know, high rated players in Dueling Network. But yeah, definitely this deck right here. This deck is seeing so much play. But yeah, these are pretty much what it looks like. I mean, there are some other decks that I could mention, like Inzectors. I've also seen a few Heretic decks, but like not too many of those. But yeah, Inzectors are still pretty popular because they did take first place, I believe. So Inzectors are still pretty popular, but I haven't seen them like that frequently. Not as much as I've seen Mermails and like Dino Rabbit. Like these two right here, everyone is jumping on the bandwagon. But they're good decks, so I don't blame them. But this deck is cheap. That's kind of why it's seeing, I'd say, more play than anything. If this deck was budget, I'd probably think a lot more players would want to play this, just because it can have a good matchup against Rabbit, as long as Rabbit doesn't have macro out, because you can just be like, it's cool, discard, it's cool, see you later, log ya. But yeah, that said, yeah, I hope this helps you like side deck a little bit better. Let me give you some side deck tips. Mind Crush is pretty decent against this deck right here. Also, Mind Crush is good against Wind Up Shark. What else is good? I actually kind of like this card. If you guys are going to like any tournaments or something, I like this card against Dino Rabbit. It's been one of my favorites. I also kind of like it against windups because it's basically like a solemn warning that you don't have to pay life for. But keep in mind, you cannot negate stuff like Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn special summons the other. Like basically this, whatever Thunder King could stop, this is the same thing. So this will not stop something like Abyss Maglow. Because this only stops inherent special summons. So that means all XYZs, all synchro summons, all contact fusions, anything that just special summons itself from the hand without like doing anything other than meeting the requirements, which would be like Cyber Dragon. You can Black Corner having that. But I really like it against Dino Rabbit because like pretty much the Dino Rabbit only puts up threatening monsters when it special summons. Anyways, and I like this card. It's pretty good. Especially against windups, really, because they always use like 2 cards. Sometimes they get it for free with Factory anyways, but Thunder King is a pretty decent card against a lot of these decks as well. I don't think it's too good against this deck, though. But this deck's not actually out. So, yeah, Thunder King is good against these two. Sometimes against Asians, but the thing is, when they go Venus Gotchi, it's like, okay, I guess you have to negate Gotchi. Cool, attack directly for 16, and they already have, like, basically two or three fairies, essentially, in the graveyard, because if you want to count the other Shrine Ball, you can count it, because it only has 500 anyways. But, yeah, Bottomless is a pretty good card against, like, everything right now. Bottomless, fantastic card against everything except for windups. I'll say it's probably not the greatest against windups, because windups will just be like, call him OTK you, Shockmaster you. I feel like windups, once they make Shockmaster, it's almost over for most decks. Like, if you go Monster Effects and you play against, like, Mermails, they lose. If you throw up Macro, they lose. You throw up D-Fissure, they kind of lose too. But remember, Deep Sea Diva is a pretty good card, because it could just go straight to, like, Cataster and, like, beat you down. But, yeah, these are pretty much the most played decks right now, these two, right here. I would say this pretty much covers most of the meta. Like I said, there's still a few Inzectors, players playing Gravekeepers. I've seen a few Monarch decks. I've seen a few Sea Lancer Monarchs. I've seen one of them was playing like some Field Spell, but I didn't really like. It was a cool deck, but yeah, honestly, this deck, watch out for this deck. Bottomless is your best friend right now, as far as in the meta right now. So good luck at any of your tournaments, or if you're just trying to get your rank higher on Dueling Network, Bottomless is probably one of the best cards at the moment to main deck against most of the meta. So good luck, guys, and thanks for watching. Asian Eyes signing out.